Chapter 33. Sasha had hoped to circumvent the rest of the crew. Still, she knew that the helicopter would, at the very least, ruffle Coraline's mental feathers. Sasha was jumpy, overreacting to every stimulus while making their way around the main tent. But she also knew that she and Emily would be safe as soon as the chopper door slid closed. More importantly, the black seed as well. Glancing over at Emily, she seemed enthralled with every profane plant and animal in their path, which meant she was drifting again. Sasha snapped her fingers a couple of times, and Emily seemed to focus. Then, Sasha karate-chopped the air towards the river and made a half-circle gesture with her index finger. Emily understood. They would skirt around base camp, hit the water, and follow it to the landing area. Emily stomped after her, much noisier than Sasha would have liked. The emotional load of fleeing while on the 9 had reduced her attention and accuracy. She was trampling way too much Mother Nature. A toddler could have tracked them at this point. When they finally reached the river, the shimmering surface threatened to hypnotize them both, and Sasha had to turn away, focusing on the ground as they walked. She looked back a few seconds later to check on Emily. She was just standing there, crying in quiet ecstasy at the water's edge. "Hey, Em, get the hell over here," she hissed. Although it took all her willpower, Emily averted her eyes from the river. Letting out a held breath, she reluctantly followed Sasha. When they reached the turn for the landing area, winded and sweating like horses, a sudden realization struck Sasha's heart like a fist. The pilot turned the damn rotors off. Despite being too far away to see, she ran towards the aircraft, her free hand overhead, circling in a Hail Mary attempt to get his attention. No response. Emily tore after her, wordlessly, lost in the unreal feel of every movement and moment. Her stomach and inner ear fought against what her brain told her was up and down. As the ground turned into a funhouse floor, her X, Y, and Z axis switched randomly. As fear oozed from her pores, she was able to pull a tranquility chew out of her pocket, get it open, and into her mouth. Emily chewed just enough to be able to swallow it, hoping the effect would somehow balance her mental scales. Unfortunately, even Sasha's most potent, mind-bending concoctions were no match for what was about to go down. Halfway across the field, the rest of the crew rounded a thicket of papaya trees, and Sasha's heart sank. Coraline locked eyes, glaring as she marched directly towards Sasha with white-knuckled fists. Now all Sasha wanted to do was to escape into the jungle, run and keep on running. "Stay close," Sasha ordered. "If this goes south, take the gun, the case, get to the helicopter and just go. The handcuff key is around my neck, and the case combination is your birthday. The pilot has orders to obey either of us. So once you tell him you want to leave, he'll take over, get you back to Kansas." "Nebraska, and what?" "No, I am not abandoning you," Emily protested, terrified of physical altercations, especially if it meant Sasha might get hurt. "Okay, well, she's going to be useless, so probably have to go with Plan B," Sasha thought, trying desperately to stay out of a negative spiral. "Fine, just keep behind me at all times then. If you get ahead all crazy, you'll screw up my line of fire, understand?" "Yeah, okay," Emily said, and fell into formation behind her, feeling like a coward as they walked cautiously towards the mini-mob. Coraline stopped her group right in Sasha's path, making a straight run to the helicopter impossible without a confrontation of some sort. She had apparently taken on the role of leader, the others bunching up in her wake. When Sasha and Emily were within shouting distance, Coraline laid in on her. "You are going to jail, Dirts," Coraline said matter-of-factly, air poking Sasha with an index finger. "Yeah, and if anything is wrong with my baby," Kelly trailed off, crying softly into Evan's chest, his big arms wrapped around her. Harold just stood by with a concerned, furrowed brow, not interrupting Coraline. He knew a blast radius when he saw one. Sasha recognized the enhanced intensity in Coraline's eyes, making her oddly happy and excited. Perhaps now she would be a worthier opponent. But would it be more fourth-dimensional chest or a knockdown, drag-out bar fight? Enhanced or not, Sasha still had one more ace up her sleeve. She had shamelessly eaten a pinch of the black seeds when Emily was busy puking, and in the short time from the supply tent to the chopper, it had multiplied the 9's effects. Now, once again reeling with the full power of the 10, Sasha was down for whatever. Unfortunately, she didn't know that Coraline had been slamming Sasha's private reserve chews like jello shots on spring break. Her genius-level IQ had at least doubled, even if only temporarily. A battle, if it came to that, now between intellectual giants. You may be right, Coraline. But today, right now, we are leaving on that chopper, Sasha said, pointing with a sweaty arm. We're not going anywhere, you crazy bee with an itch, Kelly snapped. Evan rubbed her shoulder as she started crying again, glaring at Emily and Sasha. Yes, sorry, you're right, Kelly. Correction, Emily and I are departing on that chopper. You all can catch the next whatever to wherever. Canoe, plane, pedicab, alpaca, it's all paid for. And the remainder of your contract salaries plus a large bonus have already been transferred to your accounts. So, we're done here, all right? Evan and Kelly looked at each other, silently mulling over what that money would mean for their new family. On the other hand, Coraline had disregarded the concept of money. Instead, she shifted her hard stare from Sasha's penetrating eyes to the case chained to her wrist. Sasha's monologue, the cash. It was all a diversion to get that case out of the jungle. Misdirection, top hat and rabbit, 3-card fuck me running Monty. Coraline smiled and reached into one of her cargo pockets. Glasses, she yelled, pulling hers out and putting them on with hands shaking from rage. They won't work on this. It's not stationary, and hello, it is metal, Sasha shouted, taunting Coraline. Yeah, but unless I'm mistaken, and I'm not, that's pollen and black seeds on your shirt. Sasha tightened her sweaty grip on the case, pissed at herself for not predicting the magnitude of Coraline's analytical abilities, and an apparent thirst for justice, all of which was now turned against her. Sasha had been so frantic collecting the sample, she very well might have... shit. With panic in her stomach, Sasha flipped open her glasses and shoved them on, then wearily looked down. Coraline had been right. No bluffing was needed. In her haste, Sasha must have brushed against everything. She was a walking botanical crime scene. Nectar, seeds, pollen, and bug pieces were broadcast over her upper body, even in her hair. Viewed through the glasses, Sasha's torso practically glowed from all the tags and indicators. In the end, she ratted herself out with slapdash science. And the restricted subroutines. When Em and I found the caterpillars, it opened up. But it was specific to our hardware. Their glasses shouldn't be registering the black seeds. Coraline must still have administrative access. Those damn overpaid programmers. They forgot to include a kill switch. She should have been demoted the second we found the bugs. Fucking remote workers. If I ever get my hands on their scrawny asses, I'll... Evan, Kelly, and Harold cursed and gasped at the words and symbols superimposed on Sasha's tan shirt and arms. It was the very molecules they had been searching tirelessly for this whole time, apparently in vain. The fact that Sasha had shut them all out of the final victory was the ultimate insult to Coraline. She had stolen their shared success, packed it into a briefcase, and was about to make off with it. And that case, filled with however many black seeds Sasha had managed to collect, was worth billions. Hell, trillions. No, Coraline corrected herself. Whoever ends up with that case will be the world's wealthiest person. The richest in history, perhaps. Okay, now she was thinking of the money. Her pinstripe mouth became a victorious grin as her eyes vibrated with energy. So, you found our little friends, eh? How about you hand over, I don't know, half of whatever's in that case, and we'll call it even. No federales, mi amiga, I swear. Coraline offered, crossing her heart with crossed fingers, a not-so-subtle nod to Sasha's betrayals. "Get in the ride, Emily. Just walk to the chopper. It's okay, I got this," Sasha instructed as calmly as possible. Emily looked at the gun nestled in the small of Sasha's lower back for just a moment, forcing an alternative scenario to play out in her head. The probability field would let her grab it, tumble, and get a shot off. But even if she took out Coraline, the others might rush her or pull their own weapons and return fire. Emily swayed, feeling like she was on the edge of a cliff over a deep, pitch-black abyss. She almost felt her feet sliding across the slick jungle grass, being pulled towards the bloodiest option like a temporal flash flood. Shocked by the crushing, visceral realizations that she might have killed Coraline over some seeds, Emily ran, crying, to the olive-drab helicopter. Terrified of herself and what might happen next, she collapsed onto a bench seat, sobbing. Emily dared not look out the window. All the expedition's goodness had transformed into a massive plate of disastrous bullshit, with a side odor of human drama. Meanwhile, Coraline's nervous system was rewiring as fast as all get out. She had followed Emily's eyes to Sasha's back, noted the hang time, and caught every micro-expression that had played out on her face and body. Conclusion: Sasha had some sort of weapon, most likely of the lead-spraying variety. Now Coraline felt wiser for taking that pistol from the security tent earlier, under the guise of collecting more evidence. But did Sasha know that she knew? The tension generated from her ignorance, contrasted against incredible data collection speeds, felt strangely intoxicating to Coraline, as if her mind had become a chemical pendulum swinging between greatness and ruin. As the weather above them began looking menacing, a sudden burst of cold air amplified the exposed, naked feeling created by the herbal chews. With the decrease of warm sunshine, Coraline felt her mental roller coaster enter the first spiral corkscrew as lightning flashed above the canopy. "We're going back. Come on, babe, she's got this," Evan declared, put off and worried by how aggressively Coraline and Sasha were staring each other down. He had a lover and child to think about now, and didn't care about whatever the two women were fighting over. Turning, he and Kelly stumbled towards the camp, as a light rain saturated the landing pad, transforming all their clothes into sheer, clingy sails. "Fine. All right, you two, I'll be along shortly," Coraline mainly said to herself, as they squished back down the muddy trail. Harold took a cautious step towards Coraline, but stopped when he received a "stay put" hand signal. She didn't want any collateral damage, especially not the man she had fallen in love with. Now Coraline and Sasha were alone, for all intents and purposes. So, with confident, hyper-focused steps, Coraline crossed the invisible chessboard, closing the distance to her opponent. When she was within bullseye range, she caught a tell, a twitch in Sasha's right hand, and the slightest squint of her eyes, probably to sharpen details. Coraline stopped her approach, and when she did, Sasha's eyes widened again, her jaw muscles softening. Apparently, Coraline had reached Sasha's "this far and no farther" line in the proverbial sand, while now literal mud. They stood a dozen feet apart like gunslingers, frozen in dilated time. Watching them, Harold imagined a train whistle and tumbleweeds rolling past. It felt good to stop, to focus on the pitter-patter of the rain on greenery, and take in the cleanest, freshest air the two would ever breathe. But as the water sheeted off Coraline and Sasha like two tin roofs, Harold caught the print of a gun in Coraline's back pocket. Caution to the wind, he sloshed through the mud puddles, stopping at her side. The first soggy footstep, she had already figured out the only reason he would do such a stupid, risky thing. "You brought a weapon? How did you— What the fuck, Cora?" "Thanks, lover." She had just lost her only tactical advantage, other than a level of mental computation which rivaled the most robust AI on Earth. But despite the rain, the deceit, and whatever tomorrow might bring, right now, Coraline felt like a goddess, like an entirely different species. But could she outplay, outmaneuver, or outstrike Sasha if their standoff came down to fists and kicks? And outdraw her if she pulled her weapon? All of it was uncertain, and that also felt amazing. Sasha was surprised. She had obviously planned for multiple tiers of armed resistance. Still, Coraline had seemed too bookish for an aggressive move like packing heat. Ah, the power of the 10, Sasha thought bittersweetly. Seeing Coraline in full vengeful glory was a nice monkey wrench in the cosmic plot. But, honestly, Sasha was bored with all this shit. The antsiness of her unexecuted choices within the probability field was like having a wool sweater for blood, and this useless face-off, just to placate a now ex-employee, was not her style. Goodbye, Coraline. I would say it's been fun, but I'm sure you hate cliches, and I've already lied enough for 2 lifetimes. She broke the staring contest and slowly, with cautious determination, walked backwards a few steps, turned, and started towards the chopper. Coraline felt like she was dreaming as another stage of drugs and herbs spiked in her blood. But as soon as she caught the glint of Sasha's pistol, carelessly stowed in her waistband, an adrenaline infusion helped remind her she was all too awake. The gun. I was right. This shit is fantastic. I have got to get that case. Out of the blue, she was rocked by a time skip and was somehow now holding the double-action pistol. Coraline's thumb had just clicked back the hammer, as if her subconscious had heard that silent wish and obeyed. It was a foreign, intrusive sound in the natural setting, like glass shattering during a eulogy. Not that she needed it, but the sight placed the 3 red dots squarely between Sasha's scapulas. Coraline tried to maintain her poker face, but was rattled by the lost time and the hyperconnectivity between her conscious mind and her deepest, darkest impulses. Distasteful character traits that, before the herbs, she had always viewed as weaknesses, liabilities of lesser minds, to be kept under tight control. Now, apparently, barely so. At the familiar mechanical sounds, Sasha froze. She thought of the years digging in hardpan, dusty, unforgiving conditions just to get here, and of the arduous year spent researching and refining her formula, the 9. Then, the relentless, maddening search for the black seeds, the last ingredient she needed to finally be able to recreate the 10. And lastly, the uncountable hours meditating, repeating mantras and yoga poses, forcing herself into altered states. The collection of practices she had found necessary to cultivate a monk's level of focus and discipline, and all of it so that someday she could wield the 10 like a flaming sword, smiting anything in consensus reality that denied her dreams, which at the moment was a gun-toting, justifiably aggro, techie genius. Oh man, this multiverse is such a pain in my ass. Sasha chuckled to herself so quietly that even an enhanced Coraline couldn't hear it. Faced with possible death, she now called on that same focus and discipline, on her faith constructed from science and mysticism. Then, suddenly, she could feel it. The unassailable truth. The guarantee that no one and nothing outside herself would dictate her destiny today. Sasha took a deep breath, held it, and then let it go, thinking, melt. That post-hypnotic cue instantly dropped her into a deep meditative state, a headspace where she was free to imagine anything and everything, with no judgment or repercussions. There, in that invisible temple within her human form, she took another breath. As she exhaled, a solid sphere of blue fire ignited around her, blending with every particle she was composed of. Sasha's skin prickled and tingled with goosebumps as that secret, indestructible flame encased her in protection, and, if all else failed, provide safe passage through whatever came after death. It was her truth, if nowhere else but her heart of hearts, and that was enough. Sasha began cautiously walking towards the helicopter again, while repeating the mantra that always helped her stay grounded, ever since hearing it in the cave for the first time. Submit to me, and I will protect you. Submit to me, and I will protect you. Listen up, you fucking hippie bitch, Coraline interrupted. Or imposter, or whatever the hell you are. This isn't just for you. This discovery is for all of humanity. You don't even deserve it. Well, now Coraline had gone and made Mama Bear angry. Sasha whirled on her heels, turning to face the interloper so fast that Coraline thought she might have had another time skip. In the nanoseconds it took her to realize how fast Sasha was, Coraline was staring at the muzzle of a black semi-auto. Cutting through the humidity, a red laser line painted Coraline's forehead. As the rain picked up, the herbs pushed them to the absolute limits of perception and pattern recognition. Now you listen up, Sasha started, punching the air with her weapon. You can't come with us, you hear that? You're just another boring-ass Reggie who got lucky. You don't even know how to use the formulas. I do. Or how to reach out into the future and bring shit back. I do, Sasha yelled as if it was all carved in stone. The courage of Sasha's convictions were so forceful, so convincing, that doubt crept up Coraline's spine. And on top of her doubt rode fear. It was true. She lacked the years of meditation and other navel-gazing crap that Sasha prattled on about endlessly. In fact, she hadn't used any of the tools in Sasha's spiritual playbook: hypnosis, lucid dreaming, remote viewing, and a library's worth of rare, esoteric books. Coraline had instead dedicated her life to AI, coding, and inventing. She chose the path of virtual worlds that she could control, rather than the real one constructed of endless, useless roadblocks. So she could avoid situations like this, in which Sasha, a living, breathing human, now had the upper hand. Planning meets opportunity. She has both. You have neither, Coraline echoed to herself, the words thick with dire implications. And with that realization, she understood that in this shared, hyper-focused moment in time, she was just shit out of luck. Coraline had walked into a trap, fabricated from her own version of how a logical, dependable universe should behave. Struggling to free her proverbial mental foot from the ethereal, magical jaws, a renewed flush of panic spread over her. Suddenly destabilized, her focus plummeted with each new negative thought and emotion. Coraline's ego darted away from the brightly lit avenue of inevitable victory. It was now running aimlessly through her subconscious's grungy, threat-filled hood. Her eyes became glassy and vacant, her body frozen in place. Sasha was surprised and relieved at how easily Coraline had been mentally subdued. She could guess at the headspace that Coraline was lost in. The chain of confusing, seemingly separate time loops, much like the wire of a spiral-bound notebook. It must be the mushrooms hitting her, Sasha thought introspectively. She relaxed her gun hand, the blood returning to her cold, tense fingers. Sasha could have already emptied an entire clip into Coraline. Staring at her enraptured face, Sasha was happy and sad for her simultaneously, but mostly just relieved. I know that I won't die here, right now. But do you, Coraline? Sasha lowered her weapon, then dropped it. Hitting the mud with a splat, it began sinking. Coraline was yanked back to full attention with this new development, embarrassed by her lapse of vigilance. Shaking and confused, she just stood there, waving her gun at Sasha in blessed silence. The rain hid her tears, but Sasha knew Coraline was breaking, unable to choose from many possible paths. She was fighting spiritual vertigo, a dizzying array of emotions and sensations that threatened to overwhelm her biology. With all her remaining focus, she assessed Sasha again, trying to see if what she said was the truth. Big T. Did Sasha have magical, supernatural abilities, honed with the who-knows-how-long ingestion of these drugs? Shit, even a month with these chews, working in my R&D shop, I could... And with that thought, that projection of free willpower into the future, a gate opened in Coraline's mind. Suddenly, she felt the gravity of Sasha's truth as well. A push, or a pull, some kind of movement into a destiny far beyond this dismal scene of muck and mayhem. Somewhere, some time, out there, Coraline was, no, that can't be. The feeling made no sense, but it did make this moment seem smaller. Suppose Coraline hustled back to that secluded tent before Sasha's goons got there. She could probably make off with at least one tote of those exclusive herbal packets. Coraline's gun arm swung down, hanging limply as her fingers one by one relaxed and let go. Now her weapon was on its way to becoming a rust deposit as well. Both women let out a heavy, humid sigh. Sasha turned again and started walking, but less than 2 steps in, something heavy, wet, and clingy hit her back. She stopped, shocked, as it crawled down the fabric like a handful of cold shit. Just get in the chopper. Just forget all this and get in. Your name is perfect. You know that, Dirts? 'Cause that's all you are is dirt, muck. No, you're not dirt, you're less than dirt. You're just a stinky, delusional, druggy burnout. You're nothing, Sasha. Nothing. You hear me? Coraline screamed, mud dripping from her hand. Against her better judgment, Sasha turned one last time. And you, Coraline, she said, punctuating the syllables with contempt, mockery, and a spot-on redneck accent. You're nothing more than an emotionless, obsolete fucking robot. Yeah, everything about you is predictable, analog, outdated, and frankly, boring. Well, Coraline said, pausing for effect as she dug in her pocket and then held up one of the Mind Seal chews. I'm sure a box of these will update my hardware to cutting edge, or oops. Did you maybe not think of that when you drew up your grand plan? Coraline said, flicking the packet towards Sasha. Oh, and by the way, your security measures, they got more holes than a fucking laundry basket. Watch some true crime once in a while. You may learn a thing or two, dumbass. Sasha was stalling out, her head lowered as she blushed with embarrassment. Cut and run, Sasha. Can't you feel her tampering with the outcome, the probability field? Stop wasting time. And you think I can't repurpose all your hardware? Coraline continued, gaining energy and charisma from her own monologue. Now she was the one having fun, throwing down her own royal flush. How naive to think that all this would remain a secret. Come on. NDAs don't mean dick when I'll be sitting in another country with no extradition to the U.S. I'm going to brute force the hell out of you. With all your own tech even. Forget doxing. That's Little League shit compared to what I'm going to unleash on your sorry ass. You have no idea what... Sasha held up the case and gave Coraline one last victorious smile. You may have tasted the future, you cyber cunt, but you'll never be able to go there. Not without this. Coraline pulled off her glasses and threw them in the mud, stomping on them with a sharp crack. You don't own destiny, Sasha. I felt it too, and I am powerful. More powerful than you can imagine. Me, not you. Well, see you on the street then. May the best woman win, Sasha said calmly, then turned and gave Coraline her mud-covered back. She strode away towards Emily and her ticket back to the States. Stepping up into the chopper, she motioned for takeoff and sat down as the co-pilot finished his pre-flight checklist. In a few seconds, the monstrous blades started to spin. I am the future. You hear me, Dirts? You can't hide from me. I will be everywhere, lurking in every shadow. The sliding metal door, thankfully, muffled Coraline's ranting. Sasha peeled her dirty shirt off and motioned to the flight attendant for a blanket. What did she say? Why did she throw mud at you? Emily asked, relieved but curious. Because she isn't a killer, at least not yet. The mud was a statement. A summation of all she thinks of me. Well, that and all the expletives, Sasha said, smiling weakly. As they left the jungle floor, Sasha began rethinking everything she had done on the expedition, good and bad. Mostly bad. As the attendant brought drinks and snacks, Sasha embraced the comfort that her money provided in times of creeping self-doubt. Perhaps she had been too secretive, too untrusting. Could she have let Coraline in, like Emily? Shared the research results, the power that the black seeds represented? Pulling the blanket tight, she was suddenly drained. A lethargic cocktail of the last stage of the 9, the black seed, and the lingering stress hormones in her blood threatened to knock her out. One last thing before she could rest. Taking out her phone, she brought up her hidden app. Sasha entered her password with a deep sigh and triple-tapped an icon labeled Encrypt and Delete. Her finger hovered over the red pulsing button. Across from her, the jungle raced past the window as the copper banked, revealing the base camp and domes. She pictured Coraline's face, but calm, sedate, serene. Then she touched the screen with a sharp, yogic exhale, propagating a new universe with her conscious quantum coin toss. Every trace, every terabyte of information tying her directly to the scry cubes, the black seed, the expedition, even the software itself, will be eradicated in a few seconds. Coraline may have the hardware, but that was all. Even if she came back and searched by hand, it would take years to find the black seed. Assuming the butterfly breeding ground and the sacred trees would still be there, and not slash and burn for grazing cattle or crops to feed said cattle. Sasha quickly passed out into a deep sleep. Soon, Emily slumped over, her head on Sasha's shoulder, as the helicopter sped headlong into the storm clouds.